What's up, everybody? I thought we'd talk about a week of training, go over some different sessions, and try to give some insights as to why I did what I did, and maybe you can take something from it. So first session this week was an acceleration session. I did a mix of weighted vest starts and starts without the weight vest. I went up to 40 yards, which is about 36 meters. I noticed that after doing the weight vest for a few sessions in my starts that now I'm getting back down into the 1.7s to 10 meters, into the 2.9s to 20 meters, and this is on days where I don't feel that great. So I think it's a sign that, using the weight vest to increase inertia so that we have to overcome inertia more, as well as, adding load to our tissues, our muscles, our tendons, our joints, that using the weight vest during acceleration is useful. So I'm going to keep on doing that. I don't necessarily use it every single time I sprint, but I will pretty much always use it in my warm-up, at least for the current period of time, and also in some of the sprints. So probably half of my acceleration days I'll be using the weight vest, and then the other days I'll just do regular sprints without it. And so far so good. My body feels good. I feel like it's been a good stimulus. I'm using 10 pounds, which is about 5.5% of my body weight, so it's an okay load. It's not too much. Still allows me to sprint well. And finishing up the sessions with pogo hops with the weight vest just to help with stiffness. Now the next day I went out and did some strength training, a mix of stiffness oriented hops and some lifts. So I did single leg pogos, I did single leg depth drop series jumps, which is basically from box to box, dropping in between the boxes like that previous clip. Now on the pogos, I am trying on some days to go more for height, other days for short ground contact times, and I like to kind of work both ends of that spectrum. Then I did these single leg jumps. I'm going to probably not include these going forward and instead replace them with a jump that's at the end of this video. Here I'm doing a semi-straight leg hip thrust to really target the hamstring. Then I dropped into split squats where I was focusing on dropping as fast as possible and reversing the load as fast as possible. I think if we can hit high average eccentric velocities and then have to overcome that momentum, it's probably useful for us as sprinters. Then I finished the session with some weighted bounds, and I find that wearing the weight vest when I do bounds has helped me line up my ground contacts more, and I'm getting better at bounding as a result of wearing that. Then I went out for a speed endurance workout, so we did 4x80 meters. I was here with my workout partner, training partner. And it was a pretty good session. It was hot out, so it was pretty hard, but we did 480s with 15 to 16 minutes rest in between. My fastest one was 9:02. My best ever is 8:71, so I'm definitely still a bit far off from that, but I've only done a couple sessions of 80s, and I think doing these sessions with a training partner, especially someone who can push you, is really helpful. I think I false started on this one, but having someone to go against in practice is not only going to push you to run as fast as possible, but it's also going to teach you to compete. And if we can compete in practice, then when we go to a meet, it's not going to be something new to us. We're used to it. So on workouts, especially workouts where it's hard, like 80s, 120s, 200s, any type of speed endurance or special endurance training, I think it's especially important to have training partners that you can work with. I like 80s because they're short enough to get a good speed stimulus. They're short enough to not fatigue you, too seriously, to where you can do a few reps and maintain good speeds. But it's long enough to where you get a good amount of exposure to upright sprinting, a good number of contacts in, and I think they're a pretty good stimulus for a short sprinter. Long sprinters can use them too, but obviously they'd want to progress up to 120s, 150s, and kind of keep moving up that chain. But for short sprinters, I think 80s are a really great workout. After that workout, I went to the gym. So immediately after the track session, I went and got some food, then went to the gym. Started with pogo hops, focusing on short ground contacts. Moved to 56-inch box jumps. I'm doing them from the squatted position because I want to mimic the block start. Sometimes I go to lower boxes just to have a quicker, I don't know if I have a faster rate of force development, but I think you can get off the ground sooner with lower boxes. Then I switched to box squat. Got a 12-inch box, a plate that's a few inches, and then a pad that's 1.5 inches. So I'm getting basically to parallel, maybe, right there at parallel. Focusing on sitting on the box, trying to pause for a little bit, and then firing up and creating as much rate of force development as possible. Then I went into regular hip thrust. This is 315. just trying to generate as much force at the bottom of that lift as possible. Then I went into single leg bounds, and these are the best single leg bounds I've ever had. You can kind of see that I'm attacking the ground. I'm able to swing the leg forward and then down and back into the ground, and that's something I've never been able to achieve before. And I think the main reason is because I got the arm action right. You can see I'm not as good on my left or on my right leg because I'm not as good at cycling my left arm. But when I'm on my left leg and I'm cycling my right arm, because I'm right-handed, it's a lot easier for me to cycle that arm through, which allows the leg to cycle through. So if you're struggling with single leg bounds, focus on windmilling the opposite arm. Then I went into seated calf raise. I've done seated calf in the past, but this time I was trying to propel the load as hard as I could, as high as I could, keeping the reps low, and I did put the bar velocity meter on there. I'm targeting about 0.6 meters per second on all these lifts, so I'm targeting strength speed. That would be kind of the category of strength or velocity I'm looking for. I did some bench, then I did some rows. I like the explosive rows. They're only 45-pound dumbbells, so I can move them really fast, but feels good to activate, the back and the shoulders and everything. Then I went in for an acceleration session, did a mix of 10s, 20s, and 40-yard sprints from blocks. Blocks did slip on some of them, but that's okay. You can see I got a little piece of tape there right in front of the line. So I'm trying to work on doing the shuffle start, and that'll be something I talk about more in the future in other videos. But I was really, there the block slipped, but I'm really trying to get that foot down sooner, attacking back into the track without minimizing my range of motion. I don't want to sacrifice range of motion to hit sooner on the track, but I think with a combination of getting the right block settings and then hitting the ground at the right point, you can make a huge difference in your sprint. If you're at a faster velocity at about 2 meters than everyone that you're racing with, even if you have the same acceleration, you're going to be pulling away from them for half the race, because if you're at 4 meters per second accelerating to 5, 6, 7 and they're only at 2 accelerating to 3, 4, 5, you're going to be pulling away from them the whole race. So the start is really important. Last session in this video was another gym session following that acceleration. So here I lowered the box height but added another pad, so it was a little harder. And I'm also doing them with a floating heel, so you can see that my toes are on the plate, but my heel is off. So here I have 305. It's like 140 kilos almost, I think. And it was definitely hard, but the goal here is pause on the box, then fire up as fast as you can. I was fatigued from the session, so the bar wasn't moving quite as well, but that's okay. Then I went into some single leg depth jumps, focusing on a horizontal propulsion after the jump. So oftentimes when you do depth jumps, you'll drop and then jump vertically, but as sprinters we need to be able to hit the ground and launch ourselves horizontally, so I think doing some horizontal variations is good. This is the jump that I'm going to replace those other single leg jumps with. So I have a floating heel on the box, and I'm trying to just drive the other leg up onto the box, pushing all the way through and really focusing on pushing through that contact with the box and activating the glute and hamstring. And I noticed that when I did these, I actually felt my glutes more than even when I do hip thrusts. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm wearing the 10-pound weight vest, and that helps load it up a little bit more, I think. Just makes it feel a little better. Now, here's the other angle from the side. Same exercise, but you can kind of see how, if you have the floating heel, you're going to be pushing through the calf more. So that's good. You're going to activate the Achilles, the foot muscles, all that stuff. And then you're trying to drive the leg all the way through, similar to a block start, and generate that force as quickly as possible, launch yourself up onto the box, nice and smooth, and then set yourself back down. So instead of those single leg jumps I did earlier in the video, where I wasn't on the box and I was just sort of standing on one leg, I'm going to do these instead because they feel better, and I just think they're a better exercise than the other one. Lastly, I did floating heel single leg hip thrust. This lit up my hamstrings like no other. If you do it with the floating heel, you're going to feel your upper calf and your hamstrings way more than if you do it with your feet flat. This is something I've thought about in the past, and then I saw Ben the Bounce doing it on Instagram, so I thought, heck, I might as well try it, And the more I incorporate floating heel stuff into my training, the more it makes me think about, as we're accelerating out of the blocks in our sprints, we're always going to have a floating heel. But if we're in the gym and all we ever do are things where our feet are flat, we're totally planted in the ground, then I think we're really missing an important aspect of what it what we're required to have when we sprint, which is ankle stiffness and the ability to use the foot, the calf, and all those muscles and tendons and all that stuff to propel ourselves down the track. So if you're doing lifting and you're not seeing transfer to the track, then you need to look at things like, for example, could you incorporate a floating heel into it? If you can, like on those squats, I was squatting 305 pounds. If I can squat 305 pounds with just my forefoot on the ground and my heel elevated, or my heel floating, then that's probably going to transfer better to the block start than if I just have my full foot on the ground and I'm pushing through my heels or something like that. It may seem like a subtlety, it may seem like something that's not really that important, but personally, I noticed that exercises change drastically as far as how they feel. They change how the force is produced, and if you look at on like a bar velocity meter readout, you'll see that the force curves and everything are slightly different. So consider using heel elevated work in your training. Consider how you can use some of these exercises, how they might benefit you. But that's all I got for you guys right now. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you next time. I'm out.